this morning, and I apologize in advance. Logan is away, and I'm not the regular speaker, but given the opportunity once a year, I'll take it and try to at least do my part. Appreciate Gist and Dutch and having confidence in me to be able to give a lesson this morning and giving me this opportunity. Would like to say one thing about my wife's green thumb, as what Gist was talking about. This lady took an avocado pit from one of my avocados and grew a tree. It got to be about 20 inches tall. Yes, it died later because you can't grow avocados in Kentucky, but she got a sapling out of that thing, so to me, that's a green thumb. So that's why I give her the props to that, and plus all the beautiful flowers that we have. This morning, I want to talk to you about a subject that deals mainly with me. And as always, when I bring a lesson, it's something that I've had to learn the hard way. So I figured that I can't be the only one, so I want to share it with you. The lesson today is about being a servant. What is the definition of a servant? Well, when I started making out my outline for this lesson, I forgot my dictionary, so instead of being good enough to get up, I decided to ask Google, because that's what you guys all do with your smartphones, and I finally got a smartphone, so I said, hey, Google, what's the definition of a servant? And the Oxford Languages is the definition that popped up for me, and it said it's a person who performs duties for others, a devoted and helpful follower or supporter. Their example, and I really like their example, that's why I decided to go with this, a tireless servant of God. That was their example of a servant. Again, this lesson is for me. This is a problem that I struggled with for a while. My wife might tell you I still struggle with it, and I will acknowledge that I am still a work in progress. I've been a public servant for 37 years working in the grocery business. 35 years for Save-A-Lot and 2 years in other things. Trying to make people happy. Any of you that work with the public, I see a few grins. It's not easy. It's been a blessing and a curse. I've had good experiences and I've had bad experiences. Get the opportunity to help other people. Get the opportunity to meet their needs. Provide them with things they can't get somewhere, or provide them with things that people won't get them. Provide them with hams that they say don't exist, right, Clark? Get to meet these individuals, talk to them, get to know a little bit about them. Many of them come to find out that I'm a Christian, and they share their stories with me. And I have prayer lists that are so long that sometimes, it takes a long time to get through, because if you ask me to pray for you, I'm going to pray for you. Do me a favor. When you get to feeling better, though, come let me know, because I don't stop until you tell me to. And I've been praying for people for some years now that I'm like, God, I think they're okay. I'm going to let it go. But that's, that's a good thing. That's one of the good things about getting to work with people. I've had a few bad experiences. I've been yelled at. I've been cussed at. I've been blamed for bad outcomes for their meals. The funniest one was, this is years ago because I'm still a meat cutter. Meat department got a phone call. Now they got a phone in the meat room. I had to walk every time somebody wanted me and go all the way around there and get to a phone. But anyways, I said, meat department, this duck can help you. You ruined my Thanksgiving dinner. Oh, I didn't go to your Thanksgiving dinner. But I said, I'm sorry, what have I done? That turkey you sold me had giblets inside it. I said, yes, the giblets come along with it. You take the bag out. I said, the instructions, when you go to cook it, tell you exactly what you're supposed to do there. Yeah, well, I left it in there, and it ruined the taste of my turkey. I was like, well, if I'm the one who wronged you, I apologize. I'll tell you what, you bring that receipt back. I said, I'll give you another turkey, or I will give you your money back. I want you to be happy. This was a man who had called me. A few days later, a lady came in and she said, I need to speak to Doug in the meat department. I said, I'm Doug. She said, my husband called you about a turkey. I said, the one with giblets in it? And she said, yeah. She said, It wasn't your fault, it was my fault. And she said, I just wanted to tell you that. So that's a good and bad experience. And of course, we've gotten blamed for other things. During COVID, we were praised for being able to supply people with the things they needed. You guys remember it. I mean, it was crazy. You run to the stores, they didn't have anything. My store has one luxury, though. We don't rely on our cash registers to do our ordering. We rely on Doug, Bruce, Jeff, Matt, individuals that take a gun and go through. So every day we all ran through the store and we just punched into whatever we could get. We were able to get trucks each and every day. We didn't have to wait. So we were praised for that. All stores ran out of hamburger. I don't know what it was about hamburger. Nobody wanted steak. Nobody wanted chucks, roasts, or anything like that. Have you got hamburger? Kroger's doesn't have it. Walmart doesn't have it. Do you have it? Yes, we have it. We also had the luxury of having experienced meat cutters that knew how to take those cuts of meat that people didn't want and turn them into hamburger that people did want so we could meet their needs. Other places, they didn't grind their own stuff. They didn't have grinders. They couldn't do those things and didn't do those things. 2 weeks later, though, we were criticized for supposedly gouging people by raising our prices. Well, when the supply line runs dry, the price goes up. You have to go up with it. I can't give it to you, but I guarantee you we didn't make any more profit than we normally do. In fact, we made less because we were trying to meet the needs of people. I've been a deacon for, how long have we had deacons and elders? Yes, 15, 20 years? You know, it's a love-hate relationship at first for me. I hope you don't look down on me. When we first decided to have elders and deacons, and I was asked to be a deacon, I was, yeah, sure, that's great. And any of you candidates out there to be a deacon, don't let this dissuade you, because it's a blessing. I didn't know it then. I thought it was going to be prestige. I thought it was going to be something. Till I was asked to do this and this and this and this. And there was 5 of us to start. There's only 2 of us now. And there's still a lot of needs that need to be met. So it got to a point that I was like, phew, man, I hate this job. Case in point, everything isn't a deacon's job. I was sitting in the front seat here preparing for something, and this member's no longer with us, but I loved her dearly. But came and got me and said, I got a job for a deacon. I said, well, okay. So we walked back through there. We went out those doors. I don't know, what's that? Went out to the posts out there. There was a spider in a web between the 2 posts. And I was told that the deacon needed to get rid of that spider. I loved this individual. So I took my hand and went like this and went like that and said, crisis averted. Came in and sat down. In Acts, when the apostles selected the individuals that they selected to be the deacons, I don't think the first order of business that they sent them out to was to go clear everyone's doorpost of cobwebs or spiders. Some jobs aren't, but it's okay. I've come around to the point that I'm humbled to be able to serve people. I'm humbled because I'm not just serving you, I'm serving God. And that's what you candidates need to remember, is the opportunity to serve God. I've been a husband for almost 32 years. Greatest 32 years of her life. Go ahead and nod, give me a little, throw me a crumb. I've been a father. I've been a grandfather. There's times I've had meltdowns because I don't know everything. I can't solve everybody's problems. They used to get mad at me for watching the Weather Channel, and every day, hey, Dad, is it going to rain today? How do I need to dress tomorrow? Don't ask me. You fussed at me for watching the Weather Channel. I would watch it for hours at a time. I don't know why, but I'm mesmerized by that stuff. But they wanted to know what the weather was going to be. So I would tell them. But there's a lot of pressure in those things. There's a lot of pressure to tell your kids what they need to do. There's a lot of pressure to make sure that your wife has all the things she needs. There's a lot of pressure in trying to make all the right decisions. I'm also a son to aged parents, but they live 2 hours away, and I know they have needs that I can't get to. I know I have siblings that try to take care of my parents that would love for me to be able to get there closer. Now, with all this being said, can we have a big pity party for Doug here? Don't you just feel sorry for me? Because I did. And you can ask my lovely wife. More than once, but just this one particular occasion, I just finally had this major meltdown. And I know it was before COVID, because some of the things that helped me was either when Gist was still preaching or when Tom was preaching. But so I've been able to deal with some of this stuff. But I had this major breakdown. I was discouraged. I was angry. And I hate to say it, but I was even bitter. Lisa looks at me. She's sweet. She's beautiful. And she's calm. And she tells me it's a blessing that people look at you the way they do. It's a blessing that people trust you. It's a blessing that people have hope in you. And it's a blessing that they want your wisdom. Well, that got me. I said, wisdom? Me? I don't have any wisdom. Told her, I said, I don't want to be everybody's go-to guy. Dutch says that when you go into a place, you want to get something done, find the busiest guy, ask him, he'll get it done for you. It's true. But if his arms are full and he's holding 3 things at once, don't try to bother the poor guy. You know, he's struggling as it is. Get him when his hands aren't full. But yeah, that's the way to do it. I don't think I'm the only person in this room that has come to these conclusions in life. Except for maybe Mr. Howe. He has it all together. Yeah, he's smirking. Yeah. You know, we all face these things. And that's why I want to bring this lesson to us today. Because there were some things that I came across. We were having a study. I forget what it was, but we came across Matthew chapter 20. Verse 25 of Matthew 20, you know, the 2 sons of Zebedee, their mom has just asked Jesus a sort of a ridiculous request. And, you know, he's trying to answer these things. And you get down to verse 25, it says, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom. Kind of hit me. Jesus was a servant. Then I started looking at things a little bit different. Everywhere Jesus went, somebody wanted a piece of him. Somebody wanted something from him. Somebody wanted him to do something from him. The Son of God, serving others. That was what he came to do. It's what he wanted to do. Well, I felt about it's big. I was ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed of myself to tell you this story, but I'm not the only one, I don't think, in this room that has struggled with feeling overwhelmed from time to time of the things that we need to do. So what have I learned? What have I come up with that I can help us to apply? Well, first of all, I know I'm still a work in progress, but I have a new outlook on this. It's totally new for me, about the last 5 to 6 years. Yes, I still have a meltdown here and there, but mainly that's because the body gets tired. The mind gets a little weary, but the willingness is still there. But it's about my attitude. And reading the scripture about Jesus coming to serve changed my attitude. Deuteronomy chapter 10. They've just had the golden calf incident, the tablet incident. Israel has struggled. Chapter 10, verse 12 says, "And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all of his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good." What did they need to do to get back in his graces? They needed to serve him. They needed to be workers for him. They needed to do the things that needed to be done for God, and they needed to do it with all their heart. John chapter 13. You think I was humbled before? What I'm about to read to you now has took me to a whole different level, and I hope it cuts you to the quick yourself, that you think about these things. Starting verse 1, it was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. The evening meal was being served, and the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" The Son of God, there from the beginning, knelt down and washed the feet of his disciples. Now, we got socks, we got shoes, we've got paved roads. We have the opportunity to shower every day if we want to, or close to it. They had to have sweaty feet walking in that heat. The dust would accumulate on their feet. It would be almost as if they were muddy. So, this was a common thing that they washed their feet. I have a thing. There's two things that I don't like about other people: feet and teeth. I love you, brother, and I appreciate the fact that you can look in my mouth and take care of my teeth, because I can't do it, and I praise you for that. One time I was reaching into one of our drawers, and I came across an envelope, and I said, "Lisa, what's in here?" And she said, don't open it." It was wisdom teeth that had been taken out, and I about lost I don't do that. And feet are just as bad to me. I don't want to see other people's feet. Luckily, my wife has beautiful feet. But I don't want to see other people's feet, especially men's. Now, you might like to wear sandals or whatever and come through, but I've seen some feet in my 37 years serving the public that they need to be covered up. But Jesus bowed down, knelt down, and he washed the disciples' feet. Do you know how humbling that is? Mr. Howe, I love you. If you ever need your feet washed, you call me. I'm your guy. If If you need your teeth taken care of, call Dutch first, but if he's not available, I will come help you. That's the attitude that we need to have. Matthew chapter 23. Verse 11, The greatest among you will be your servant, for whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. You know, sometimes we get the idea that we are up here and that everyone else is down here. We get the thought that, you know what, we're better than everybody else. I know we're Christians, I know we're brethren and stuff, but we're also human. And when people start putting you up on this level, you kind of start to sometimes believe it. But we're not on any level that's equal to our Savior, Jesus Christ. And if he can lower himself down to serve, we can lower ourselves down to serve. Sometimes we feel like we deserve. Well, if you read the Bible enough, you know that what we deserve is death. Because all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So if we got what we think we deserve, it would not be what we truly deserve. You know, in your workplace, there's going to be good and bad. Colossians 3:23 and 24 says, when you're doing things, do them as if you're doing them for the Lord, whatever you do in word or deed. You know, if we pretend that whatever you're doing in your job, whether it's at school, whether it's at Toyota or Save-A-Lot or wherever it is that you might work, your boss is God. Have that attitude. Be a servant that is worthy. Be a servant that is worthy to be called a servant of God. One of the things I found that I didn't really like the labels. Yes, I am a boss on paper. But when I think of a boss, I think of the guy who sits behind a desk, tells everybody what to do, lines everybody out, and then goes and has coffee, and then he's got to make a tea time at 11 o'clock or something out on the golf course. That's, I'm lucky sometimes to eat lunch by 4 o'clock, and I've been there since 6 o'clock. To me, you don't have to be a boss to see that the job gets done. You don't have to be a deacon to see that the jobs get done. If you walk into the church and you see a banana peel on the ground, pick it up before somebody gets hurt. You don't have to call a deacon to do that. Ann likes to tell everybody that during COVID, all she had to do was text me her list, and I would buy her stuff and bring it out, and we'd set it and whatever. And Ann's not here with us. If she's watching or watches this later, I hope she understands. I didn't do that because I'm a deacon. I did that because I'm a human, and she's a human, and I happen to love her. I don't need that label to be a deacon to do what needs to be done, and you don't either. Attitude. Look over with me real quick in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 6. This is when he comes and has his great commission, what he's supposed to do. And preachers, we have some in here that preach, and, I have the utmost respect, and I would never disagree with something somebody said. But one time Logan had said, he was reading this, he said, verse 8 says, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. Well, Logan had said, he said, I don't know that Isaiah really wanted to go. I don't know. I look at that, and, punctuation's important. Just ask Miss School Teacher over here. Punctuation's very important. There's an exclamation point there. I don't think Isaiah was like, you can send me if you want to. No, he said, here am I. Send me. How many times have we put a list up in the back for something, whether it be mowing, whether it be to feed a preacher's coming, or something that needs to be done, and next service, we got to remind people, there's still a list back there. Wouldn't it be great if a person stood up here and said, there's a list back there, and everybody just jumped up and started knocking each other down because they wanted to serve, they wanted to do, wouldn't that be great? I'm going to show my age here, but some of you guys are a little older than me, about my age. But you remember Welcome Back, Kotter? You remember Arnold Horshack? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Why don't we have an attitude like that? If Jesus was standing up here and Jesus said, I need a volunteer, how many of y'all would sit in your seats? When you're serving, Jesus is standing here. And we need to get up out of our seats. And we need to do what needs to be done. We need to look for ways that we can serve. Don't always have to be told to do things. We need to remember sometimes when we go places that people will serve us. We need to remember who we are. We need to remember that even though they're providing a service for us, they're human beings also. They're not just there for us. Case in point, just remember one of my cashiers getting raked over the coals because she was doing something a little bit wrong, but she'd had a very bad situation in her family that day, but yet she still came to work. She was doing her best because she needed the money. But she had a private life that wasn't going so well, and this customer wasn't none too happy because he was paying for that service. Okay, I understand that. But just remember, sometime that shoe might be on the other foot. You might have the worst waitress, and that's okay. Maybe she's obnoxious and she doesn't deserve your tip, and maybe that's the way she treats everybody. But maybe she just found out that her child has some kind of an illness, and she's a single mom. She's got to work. She's got to do what she can. Just remember to treat people the way God would want you to treat them. We're not on this earth to be served. We're on this earth to serve. Sometimes you might think of people that you might think that they're a little beneath you. I can remember this blew me away. But at Christmas time, my parents, they make cinnamon rolls and wait for the garbage truck to come, and then they take out cinnamon rolls to the garbage men for picking up their garbage all year long. Back when I was a kid, people sort of made fun of the garbage men and stuff. But I just wondered what those garbage men think, I know now they're like, I can't wait to get to the Weaver house because we're going to have fresh cinnamon rolls. And that's the good ones that me and Lehman used to fight over. But it's just a little thing that you can do to make somebody feel good. One thing about my parents that I always remembered, they never turned anybody away. I mean, somebody could stop by, and we might be just barely had enough food fixed for us, but there was always room at our table. And my friends, they always wanted to come to my house. I always wanted to go to somebody else's house. I wanted to see how everybody else lived, but they always wanted to come to my house because my parents always made them feel like they were special. That's another way that we can serve. We need to do for people because we want to, not because a label tells us that we have to. There are some labels that I do like. I like the label of Christian. I like to be a Christian. I like for people to know that I'm a Christian. And with that label comes a lot of responsibilities. And I like being a dad, and I like being a husband. I like being a friend, a son. I like being a brother. But if I do anything, it's not because of that label. It's because it's how I feel that I need to do to serve God. It's all about our attitude. Matthew chapter 22. We'll make full circle here. I told you what was said to Israel after the golden calf incident. Well, here in Matthew 22, Jesus is meeting with some people here, the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They'd gotten together, and one of them, an expert in the law, verse 34, he had this question. He says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Love your neighbor as yourself. You know, that word neighbor, it includes more than just the lady next door and the people that live next to me that rent the place that I don't even know their names. Mr. Howe lives about 4 or 5 houses down, quarter mile, half mile. He's my neighbor. The guy across the street's my neighbor. You guys, you're my neighbor. We're all neighbors. We need to love one another. Could you imagine if the whole world treated each other as a neighbor? What a wonderful place this would be. I think that's what the Garden of Eden was intended to look like. If everybody thought of someone else first instead of themselves, if everybody tried to serve instead of wanting to be served, what kind of world would we live in? There's one last scripture I want us to look at this morning. And I want you to remember the words that we all talk about that we long to hear. And it comes from Matthew 25, verse 21. It said, His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into thy rest." We talk about that. We long to hear that. But there's a key word in there. Servant. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. My attitude has changed. Yes, I still get tired, as I'm sure you guys sometimes get tired. But goodness gracious, how tired was Jesus packing that cross? How tired was Jesus after being brutally beaten, being mocked, being spit upon, the crown of thorns, as Gis pointed out, placed upon his head? Remember his words when he hung upon that cross and they made fun of him. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That is a servant. And that's what we need to emulate. Brothers and sisters, did you come here to serve or to be served? That's the question that you're going to have to ask yourself. If you're here this morning and you never obeyed the gospel, you need to become a servant of God. You need to repent of your sins. You need to be washed in this burial grave of baptism right behind this water. Be buried in that and come up as a new creature. If there's anything that we can do to help you this morning, it is our hope and our prayer that you would come forward as we sing the song of invitation. You've been a great audience, and I appreciate your time and your patience with me. And I hope that we can carry this lesson with us, not only through this week, but through the rest of our lives, because God expects us to serve, and that's what we need to do.